Hey folks, so this is a UFO that has been hiding in my cupboard for quite some time. It's time to finish this, I think. It's been in this state for at least a year and a half, possibly 2 years, and it started off life as a pile of fabric about 5 years ago. So let's have a look and see what's going on. The story behind this quilt was we lived in an old 105-year-old flat with single glazed old-fashioned windows, and it was really cold in winter, so I wanted to make quilts for cuddling up at night. So this kind of cuddle fleece fabric, which is lovely. And so I really liked the idea of a log cabin because you could make all these secondary patterns from a really simple and easy block. Because I was making 2 twin-size quilts, I wanted to be able to mass produce the blocks. Yeah, this might need a little bit of pressing. There we go. So, oops. Yeah, so this is the centre of the quilt here. So you can see it was a kind of red, grey, and whatever colour that is, theme. And the idea is that here's the log cabin block. So this is really traditional block. There's a centre block with the red towards the middle, which creates this kind of diamond shape. And then on the outside, the red goes in the opposite direction and creates a kind of diamond border that goes around it. And then we create the illusion of that border continuing up here. So you can see here's the block here, and again the red's on the outside, so you've got this line in the border and then this line, so it's basically echoing a diamond all the way out, and then a red border to frame it with a mitered corner. Let's bring this over, and then whatever colour this is, grey. I am colourblind, so I can't remember what colour it is, but and then just that border, so the red kind of finishes off and frames it, makes it nice and tidy, and then this just gives us a little bit more space to bring it up to the full width. And then we've got our batting, and then we've got our fleecy fabric. As I say, this was lying in separate log cabins for ages, and then I had a mad spurt one day and sewed them all together into quilts, and I was really pleased with myself. I was like, yay, and then put it back in the cupboard. So I moved house 2 years ago, just went into storage with all our things for 4 months, and when we moved into the new house, we had this sewing room, which is where I currently am. And I thought, oh, I'm going to finish this quilt, I'm going to get it done, finally get it finished. And then realised that the colours no longer work in our living room, because our living room has different colours now. And obviously because this was made 4 years ago, trends have changed a little bit in the interior design. So it got shoved into a cupboard again. So what I did with this was I took it out, made a quilt sandwich, and then came up with this really, what I thought was a really clever geometric pattern. So you can see a little bit of the quilting there. So we have diamonds. I thought diamonds are really cool. They're going to emphasize the pattern, and to do them, you know, on these lines, make it nice and easy to sew. It's all straight line quilting. And then I was like, oh, well, you know, you can do all these secondary patterns and you can make all this. Lots of, as you can see from all these threads, there is lots of starting and stopping in this quilting, which has resulted in all these birds' nests, because I use the automatic start and stop. And so on the back, you can see like just birds' nests. And because I was getting fed up with the project, I was rushing and not taking care of it properly, and actually ended up with just like this total mess, which I now have to try and figure out how to fix. So you can see like big massive knots here, you know, and then over here, like, I mean, look at this, what's this? Oh, a loose thread. But what is kind of cool is the pattern that I had started to make, like the central square with diamonds in it, which was, I actually think is pretty cool. So you can see we've got diamond, well, it's not diamonds, it's square and point, sorry. Square and point, and then square and point. And then it's accented by squares that go round the way. I wanted to create a checkerboard, so almost like create a quilt pattern actually. That would be quite a cool quilt pattern to piece. But I wanted to create the secondary pattern on the back. And what's quite nice about this cuddly fleecy fabric is actually that the quilting somewhat disappears into it, so you can't actually see the stitching that much. You can just see the lines, the indents that it makes. So the question is, what do I do with these now? Because I have 2 of them. I have the backing panel for the other one made. I have the other quilt top sitting. I have a pack of batting sitting in a cupboard gathering dust waiting for it, and nothing to do with it, nobody to give it to. So there's no motivation to finish it. It's just going to sit and gather more dust. But I think what's putting me off, well, I think there's more than one thing that's putting me off. Like, I drew this in chalk, so you can see, like, so for example, this, let's look at this little section here. You know, I've got lines here, which create a pattern, but then I've got these lines here, and then I've got these lines here. They go all the way down here, and just, it was supposed to create the impression of steps going up. But to quilt that, to get a continuous quilt line, it's a lot of work without doing a lot of start and stops, and then the more start and stops means the more threads that need to be hidden and buried. So maybe what we should do is we've got this nice central design now in the middle, which looks pretty cool, and with a bit of hard work and a bit of careful needlework I can hide all this bird's nest. So we've got two choices. What we can do is we've got diamonds, so we can just create diamond echoes, straight line quilting and echo diamonds all the way out. Not diamonds, squares on point, okay? We can just do squares on point all the way out and finish it off. And then in the borders, we can just do some echo straight lines out. Or we can do just squares but not on point. So like how we have this big square here, we can just echo that all the way out. And actually that'd be quite easy because it'd be one start and stop point per row. And therefore there would only be one set of threads, not several sections that need to be hidden. And then we could bind it, give it a wash because it's pretty dusty, and then find somebody to gift it to that has this colour theme in their house. So yeah, this has been sitting for almost 5 years, desperate for some love. So let's see if we can get it finished before the end of June 2020. Just this one, and then we'll see if we can get the other one done. And perhaps we'll learn lessons from all this complicated quilting that I decided to do about how to make it simpler and faster. Because done is better than perfect. So I think the second thing that put me off was the fact that for this quilt I decided that I wanted to use a top stitch thread that I've never done this, used a top stitch thread before. So I got some King Tut Superior threads and decided to try something new. I didn't know how to use this, and so what happened was, didn't know what to use in the bobbin. So do you use this in the bobbin? Other people said to use a clear plastic thread in the bobbin, which I didn't really like the idea of a plastic thread. So then I eventually ended up going with the same cotton basic thread that I used for piecing in the bobbin, and then this on the top. When I started it, I had the wrong needle and I didn't have the right needle. This uses a top stitch 90/14 needle, which I wasn't using. So once I got that in, that was great. So I wanted a stitch that was nice and a little bit longer so that you could actually see it, and that it just looked a little bit like hand sewn. So my sewing machine had a stitch for that on it. I thought, great, that's lovely, that will work nicely, except it took forever to sew because it did one forward, two back to make that stitch look like a hand sewn stitch. So then eventually just ended up going with a normal straight stitch, but set the length a little bit longer, but had to play with the tensions because of this top stitch thread giving me problems with bird's nests and the bottom thread and stuff like that. I had set a memory in my sewing machine with all the settings on it because those settings then didn't work for piecing. Sadly my sewing machine broke. I have a Bernina 750 QE. There was a problem with one of the PCB boards on it, so it went to get serviced, which reset all the memories, and I lost the settings. And because it broke, I couldn't switch it on to write them down. I can't actually remember, because it's been 18 months since I last did any quilting on this. I can't actually remember what the settings were for the sewing machine. So what we're going to have to do is create a little quilt sandwich of this fabric. I have scraps of these fabrics left from when I made it, so I'll create a little quilt sandwich of this, and a bit of fleece. And then I've got plenty of this to work with. I've got like 500 yards. So I'm just going to have to play with the sewing machine till I find the settings. And this time I'm going to write them down so that I don't forget, because otherwise we'll just go through this again. Okay, so that's the plan. We're going to try and get this finished by the end of June. Today is the 13th of June 2020. This is the plan. Make a sandwich, a little sampler sandwich of these fabrics, figure out the tension settings on the sewing machine again for the top thread and the bottom thread so that we don't get any bird's nests. We're going to decide whether to do squares on point to echo out the diamonds that we have in here, or whether to just do squares to echo the current squares, fix all these bird's nests and tails that are hanging off in the stop-start quilting that I did before, bind it, wash it and press it, and then be done in 2 weeks. So what I'll do is, once I've figured out the tensions and everything on my sewing machine, I'll bring you back and show you the quilting of it and what I decided. So this is just to show you what I found whilst I was looking for fabric to make a sandwich to test. So this is the other quilt top, which is totally like, yikes, look at all these, oh my, like totally, whoa, look at this, wow. This is what happens when you leave things lying uncovered. Look, the seam has burst on the border, okay? So a repair work is needed. Next up, here's my big fabric panel that we made for the second quilt. So this is cuddle fabric, and this is basically 2 panels sewn together. So this is quite a wide fabric, so this is 2 panels that are salvage to salvage with some fabric sewn together. That gave me enough direction and was the cheapest option in terms of how much fabric I needed. Found this, which is the binding for the quilt. This, as I said, I had pre-made it, but I mean, look at this, like it's all like tattered and whatever that is, frayed. And it also, like looking at the actual quilt top, it looks like a totally different colour. So here's the quilt top, yeah? You can see the red, you can see this massive thread, whatever that is. And then here's this one. So you can see, like, a different colour. What happened? Then I found these scraps. I was like, these don't look like the same colour either. But now that I see this on camera, actually I think this is the same colour. I think this is, yeah, they're all the same colour. This is the downfalls of being colourblind as a quilter. But this is not the same as this. This is, I can see from the weave, this is a totally different fabric. So I have no idea at all what this is for, where it came from. And I have no idea where the binding for either of these quilts are. I mean, this looks like enough to quilt both of these quilts, but it's the wrong colour. Oh dear. And it's not even the right colour inside. It's not even like it's sun bleached. So that's going to be fun to figure out. The plot keeps thickening. So now I found a bag of scraps. Ah, is this right? Ah. Okay, so this looks like it could be the right red. Possibly. Maybe. So there's 2 bits of that. In the very, very bottom of this gigantic bag. Okay. Just a little bit. Okay. So now, is there any red cuddle fabric? And our survey says no. To the drawing board. Okay, we're back again. My only choice, I'm afraid, to get some scrap, to make a scrap sandwich, is to take a piece of this quilt and cut. Now, usually you're not supposed to cut this before you finish quilting it. However, desperate times call for desperate measures. So this is the edge here. I don't really need a strip, I don't really need a big strip. So let's see. Let's just cut like a little. Let's just do this. This is probably going to be very squint. Yeah, I mean, yeah, okay, that's totally squint. Never mind. So the edge of the fabric is there, so I've given myself 1.25 inches. Just in that little section, and that's fine. We've got our scrap of cuddle fabric, and actually this is going to work out okay because we've got this red fabric here, which is actually the same length. So actually, it kind of almost happened like it was meant to be. And then we just need a little bit of this backing. Take a square of that. Again, a beautiful straight line. But it doesn't really matter because we're just making a sandwich for us to test the sewing machine settings, and I can get a good 2 or 3 lines down there, or I can get lots more going in the opposite direction. So I'm going to put this way because it seems to have a bit of curl in it. Then we have sandwich on top, and then we have 1 piece of red, and then we have 2 pieces of red. So we've made a quilt sandwich. Some pins. I would usually use, what do you call them, safety pins, but for something this small, where it doesn't really matter if it shifts. It's not really about the quilting, it's about the settings. But let's actually make this easier on ourselves. For starting, if I'm going to sew this way, I've put a big pin in the way. So if I pin down the sides, it means I've got a straight line, a section that I can kind of pin down. And that's the edge of the fabric underneath there. Okay, so I can do whatever I need to do. So 2 pins there, a little pin here, and then another one down here. Okay, so you can see, ow. This is why we use safety pins so that doesn't happen. So a little sandwich, now we can get the sewing machine out and we can test.